Greetings, this is Charles Darwin, and I'm speaking to you from a church marquee in a small town in rural Oklahoma beside a busy street. You'll probably be able to hear the many dozen big pickup trucks that are going to go by as I'm speaking. Now, perhaps I should be getting a little bit worried, do you think? Because if in fact I'm calling God a liar, then I'd better be worried. But you see, that's not what I'm doing. All I'm doing is saying that religious people should not take the first chapter of Genesis literally. Now, these fundamentalists at this and other churches already take parts of the Bible figuratively rather than literally. For example, in the Gospels, many of the healings involve the casting out of demons, and yet these fundamentalists do not insist that classes at medical schools or at universities that train medical students teach about exorcisms and demonology, and yet they have a problem with evolution, but they don't have a problem with medical science. I believe that that is a contradiction. They take the Gospels figuratively, and yet they take Genesis 1 as literally true, 6 days and all that. Well, you see, the leaders of these fundamentalist churches believe that God has given them personally the privilege of how to interpret the Bible, to make pronouncements about science that they've never studied. Do you have any questions about how to interpret the Bible? Which parts to take figuratively, which parts to take literally? Well, all you have to do is to ask them, because God has given them minds that are personally inerrant. They are as incapable of error as God himself. Now, this sounds blasphemous to me, but who am I to say? After all, I am not God's chosen, inerrant, perfect person. I'm just a regular human being. I'm not perfect the way these fundamentalists believe themselves to be. Now, not all Christians have trouble with evolution. Let me give you some examples. Francis Collins, who is now the director of the National Institutes of Health, perhaps one of the most famous biologists in the world today. He's a Christian, but he has no trouble with the genetic evidence of evolution. He's a geneticist, and he fully accepts that evidence. It does not bother his faith. Another example is Jimmy Carter. You remember Jimmy Carter, of course. Jimmy Carter is a peanut farmer in Georgia, and he later became the governor of Georgia. He was the man who put the gubernat into gubernatorial, and later he became president of the United States. Today, he is an ambassador of Christian love and goodwill to the whole world. He doesn't have a problem with evolution and science either. Now, this sign has been famous before. Earlier signs at this marquee proclaimed, "Big Bang Theory, you must be kidding God." They were quoting God. They were making up a quote and attributing it to God. You see, I guess they think they have the right to do that. They can make stuff up and put it in God's mouth. And that sign was so popular that after they took it down, they put it back up. Well, you know, maybe I'd better be careful, because if these fundamentalists think they can order God around, then they can tell God to strike me dead. And God, I suppose, has no choice but to obey them. This is Charles Darwin. Tally ho, and amen.